You're listening to Ask the Mayor on KWBE with Beatrice Mayor Bob Morgan, and it's Homestead Days. Mr. Mayor, a lot of activities going on.
There is, This is always a full week, and, as I was driving around town a couple of days this week, I was amazed that, you think about it, Angie and the Chamber have put a lot of time in prior to this, and this is kind of the capstone, and I'm sure when Sunday night gets done, they're going to sit back in their easy chair and go,
exhale.
Because it's a lot of work for them, but 45 years, they've always done a good job. And, it also takes volunteers. I know they've got a core of volunteers, and I know it's always a struggle to get volunteers this day and age, but, I'm sure they're very thankful for their volunteers. And then as I drove around town, I started noticing, from a city's perspective, Mark Peathod and his crew have got the parks looking really, really good, worked hard extra on that. And, as I drove to somewhere yesterday, you saw the city employees washing down the bridge railings. And so, it's really an all-out effort to put on Homestead Days. We really thank the Chamber. They're the ones who do the yeoman's work, but also the volunteers and for the city employees that have stepped up to the plate to make Beatrice the shining star that it is very appreciative.
There's traffic cones that have to be put out, barricades and things to block streets during the parade. Just recently, I think you had a round of mosquito spraying, which always helps this time of year.
It is that time of year,
And so there is a lot of things that kind of go on behind the scenes that maybe the average person doesn't really recognize, but it happens.
And, like I said, I don't know how many years before I was on the council and mayor, I drove by and didn't even give it a second thought about all the people working to make this happen. And so it is neat to see that many people come together to make this a very special event.
The parade this year, of course, will start out having to work its way by an area that's underway for water main work, but keeping it right there for now is kind of on purpose. You wanted to avoid the downtown area there.
We did. That project runs from about 15th and Court down to roughly 4th and Court as we replace a water main that is 100 years old at least. And so it's important to make sure that we get that changed out, and it just doesn't matter when you do it. It's going to be kind of a mess. But, the foresight, I think Tobias was talking to the contractor and said, they were going to go from 4th Street to 15th, but if you look at that and you have Homestead Days, there was a conversation about can we reverse that and go from 15th to 4th so that when we have the parade and actually downtown for this weekend we'll not have that construction. So that was a pretty smart move. And, the construction company we've got has been very flexible, and they said, yeah, we can do that. So to keep the mess kind of at that 13th Street area is better than having it at 4th Street. And, so as you do come to the parade, just know that there's going to be a little bit of construction that you need to at least be aware of as you get around that 13th Street area.
And please don't move the cones. Leave them set where they were.
Yes, please leave the cones where they are. That's exactly right.
I know. I was driving between Lincoln and Beatrice the other day, coming back home from a meeting in Lincoln, and I noticed, of course, the construction's going on for Princeton, north there on US 77, and all the cones, how many of them were knocked over by vehicles? It seemed like there were more knocked over that were still standing, but they can take quite a beating at times, but please leave them alone. They're there for a reason.
That's exactly right.
They have to stay there, and I know the parade entries will probably work through that stretch for a little while, and then probably.
I think they'll be okay because we do have two, like you said earlier when we talked. They do have 2-lane traffic, so I think they'll be okay. It's just that we want people to be safe.
Okay, all right. And things going on out at the historical park, too, and all around the region, too. It's not just right in the city of Beatrice.
No.
If you maybe want to attend only one or two things, you can kind of have your choice of things that are going on. There's a lot of displays and kind of, not a lot of physical exertion involved, but just nice things to go to, and a lot of it's free. You don't even have to pay anything.
Absolutely. The National Park has always been a good partner for Beatrice, and they're bringing in a pretty top-name person, Marty
Rainey
from the Discovery.
Yeah, Discovery Channel, and I think it's Is it Homestead Rescue?
I think it is.
I've seen that. It's an interesting program.
Yeah.
And kind of ties in well with the homestead because sort of the theme is, you're trying to make do with less, and you're building out in areas that are far away from development and everything. So I think it's great. I'm glad they're bringing the gentleman in, I guess I would just encourage people to look on the website and find things that are happening this weekend. I mean, I know you've had Angie on, and she's probably run down the list, but I think tonight there's a farmers market. Friday kids nights, which works out really well because I have a grandson and a granddaughter in town, along with my youngest son and daughter-in-law. So I'm sure that's one of the first things that Grandma starred. You can stick around and watch the big fireworks display too.
Well, right. So we've got that, and then I think was it Saturday night? There's an outdoor movie.
Yep.
I mean that's kind of cool.
Yep.
And then of course there's always activities in Chautauqua on Sunday.
Got the big car show, and then the duck races coming back. A little bit of decision to be made as to exactly where that will take place, but wouldn't you know, the river's not really cooperating this year as much as it might. But
and I wasn't here when they had the original duck races, but I do hear that when they tried to do it many years ago in the mid-'90s, you had plenty of water, almost too much water.
Yeah, and they flew down the river pretty fast. I was amazed at how fast they got around the bend there. Probably wouldn't have that problem today because you can walk across the river in some areas now. So, but never is everything just ideal when it comes to water. No. As you said something about mosquito spraying, and I'm glad we did that. In some respects, it'd be nice to have some water so we had a bigger mosquito problem. Not really. Well, wait and see where that all takes place. There's a couple of other options you're looking at.
Right. I think there is. I know that the city's working with the chamber, and it will be a good nostalgia event.
Yep. A couple of things from Monday night's council meeting, which was the first time you tried moving the work session right before the council. I know there was some concern about, does that leave enough time to discuss things? You had a couple of issues on there. Worked out that I think you took about 45 minutes, 50 minutes, and that was plenty of time to do it this time.
Right.
One of those was kind of I don't want to say reinstituting because there was like 2 standing committees before, but kind of a committee process where you have council members serving in areas that they may have some expertise or interest in there.
Yeah. In January, we kind of went through and I asked them, what some of the goals were. And when you think about it, the major goals that came out of there was Dempster's, downtown revitalization, and then one of the things that always comes up now and then is the ordinance of nuisance properties, which could be vehicles, it could be grass, it could be junk, it could be a whole host of things. And, so we had those, plus, as we look about how do we take Lincoln and 33rd Street and finish that off as the school builds their building, it really became apparent that, to make things really happen, we probably need to go to some type of committee structure where we have more people than just myself or the administration taking a look at the issues. I'll pick on 2, for instance, for sure, the Dempster Committee and the Downtown Revitalization Committee. Those are 2 projects that are going to take a long time. If you look at Dempster's, we're still trying to foreclose on properties. Once you foreclose on properties, you have a length of time before you can do anything with that property. So we're probably, 3-4 years out before a lot of major work can be done. So as we looked at it as a council, the idea of the committees is to put together a playbook or, a plan. Like the old saying goes, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And so if we can produce a product that we can pass, it will give a roadmap for people in the future as people go on and off the council to get those projects done. So I think it has some solid ideas. I think the people that are on each one of the committees has the desire to be there and do a good job. And it's going to take a little while, but we really wanted to just say, hey, these are important projects. How do we get them done? And I've always used the expression when they're a big project, how do you eat an elephant when it's one bite at a time? And so this will give us a playbook. Certainly if you use Dempster's as an example, There's a number of things we can do. I mean, inside, it's pretty trashy.
Yeah.
There's a couple old outbuildings that if we have control of them, we could take them down early. But most of it happens in the back of the building.
Yeah, you don't see the big main part up front on 6th Street. Yeah.
So you won't see a lot of progress, but if we have a playbook that people can follow, the community will know we're trying to get something done on Dempster's.
On the Dempster property, too, it's so overgrown in the back there with trees and everything. Although I suppose it might be nice to leave a few of them there, it still would be nice to maybe clear out that area a little bit. It's a little junky back there. There's a big deer population in there.
There's a big deer population, probably a turkey population, yeah. And it's in the city limits, so no hunting.
Yeah, really. Don't get your archery stuff out yet. You can't do that. But that, as you mentioned, I think, let's say if that happened, some of the buildings toward the rear were taken out. Maybe that's cleaned up a little bit in there. You would at least see that from, say, like the trail system of the city, and you'd see something that's
we would
going on.
We would, and it's just one of those things that's going to take time, and so all of us believe that that's a good project, and we want to get that done. Mm-hmm. And again, if you talk about downtown revitalization, once you decide to revitalize the downtown, take a look at moving the highway over one block. There's a lot of processes in place and boxes you have to check. And as I've said on the program many times, you also then have to go through a design stage. Mm-hmm. And for an example, the design stage for the project on Lincoln and 33rd Street, I think was or is close to a year, year and a half. Mm-hmm. And so if you look at the downtown revitalization, probably to do that project, you could be easily in a 2-year range of design. Yeah. And so both projects are hard to get done in a single term. And so, again, we'll have a playbook and we'll see if we can work that plan.
And I know the school's superintendent recently announced, at least with the contractor, they want to try to at least start to move in probably in mid to late July of next year so they can open up in the fall of 24 with that building, and that may not exactly mesh with the street project, so you have that to kind of deal with.
Right. Again, if you go back to, from the city's perspective, we started trying to work with the school year and a half ago. Mm-hmm. I'm through their design process. It took a long time for them to determine the site location. Mm-hmm. And until the site location was secured, they really wanted to kind of get the building going. So, we lost some time there. We lost some valuable time that we were hoping that we could have had to get the design project done.
Okay. Back with more with Beatrice Mayor Bob Morgan in just a moment on Ask the Mayor. You're listening to Ask the Mayor on KWBE with Beatrice Mayor Bob Morgan. One of the topics on that work session schedule for Monday night was what the city does in terms of recycling. Had a good report on that from the people who manage that and oversee that, not only from the recycling site you have west of the auditorium, but also the curbside program and the costs there and how many people participate and things like that. Learned quite a bit just sitting there listening to that about it's such a market-driven program in terms of, some recycled material you get nothing for to turn in, and other things it varies from very low to maybe higher or more acceptable, but you're it's a little bit like the water park. You're providing a service and you're not going to make money on it, but maybe it's good to have the service. I guess that's one way to explain it.
You always have to ask that question, what's the right thing to do?
Yep.
And, I think it came out that we lose probably last year $40,000. Now, on, a multi-million-dollar budget, that's not a lot. Certainly we want to make money, but if you think about it, plastics don't bring anything. Most of the money is made from cardboard, and there's a period of time when cardboard was so low nobody would take it. Having what really kind of started that conversation was, and we still try to keep up with it, but we do have a number of people that recycle down there by the city auditorium, and they get full. And so cardboard gets full and those type of things. So we thought it would be a good time at that work session to talk about recycling. I think recycling is probably one of those things that will continue to grow as people become more conscious about the planet. I guess, and in full disclosure, at my age, recycling wasn't something that I really thought about. So I'm not probably the best recycler in the world, but I think it's one of those things that are important for kids and grandkids as we go down the road. But we have some options that I think a lot of people may or may not be aware of because we don't talk about it very often. And having them come in and talk about it, we also have, I think it's for $8.50, curbside recycling. And they give you a little bit smaller tote than what was your typical garbage tote. But we have an independent contractor that comes up and picks those up every week. And so for $8.50, as one councilman says, I need one right now because I'm going to quit driving down to the recycling place. I'll just do this for $8.50. And so I think there's some neat options. I think you'll see some more social media publicity on what we can provide for recycling. The other thing that I think that I found interesting is for most cities, recycling isn't something they're doing. Now we're talking about the big cities of Lincoln and Omaha there is. But if you look at most of the communities our size, a little bit smaller, a little bit larger, recycling isn't really part of their garbage plan. And so, I think we're in a good place there. And, the people do a good job. Carrie and Jason were there with a number of answers. I mean, when you think about it, they've studied it from every way they can, and it's kind of a double-edged sword. If you grow, you probably have to add employees, which would possibly lose more money at the other end, but you'd save landfill space. And so it's more of a complex issue than just, what do I do with my cardboard?
That 40,000 kind of deficit estimate per year, what do you think might be the best way to just reduce that a little bit? I'm not sure you can eliminate it totally, but any kind of thing stand out to you as maybe the best way to, is it an upward adjustment on the recycling fee? Is it just getting more people to do that, or what?
I think it's trying to get more people to pick up recycling for that. Again, I certainly need to be very conscientious about what we raise prices for. People that might be on fixed income, really, they don't really need another $2 or $3 tacked on to their bill. But I think that, I would like to see that get a little bigger. And as I listened to Jason, so much of it is dependent on pricing. So if cardboard goes up, we'll probably be pretty close to breaking even. There's no hope for plastics. The big question is, why don't you take glass? Glass is just another animal that we don't have the facility or the machinery to do that because you have to really break it down, and there's no market for glass at all. And again, who knows? As things change, there might be price increases that when we resell it. But it's an interesting business piece for Lamar's folks.
It was interesting, Jason's comments regarding cardboard about the potential option of just taking that to the landfill, not getting into that. Any merit to that, do you think, or what? Because he was maintaining that it more easily breaks down than, say, like plastic and things like that. So
it does. Again, that's the one bright hope that we have. The price goes up. Plus, it does break down, but it also takes space. And as we look at probably another project that we'll have to at least start on during my term is closing a landfill and opening a new one.
We kind of got, probably 4 or 5 years of life left on the old one, I'm guessing?
I would guess somewhere in there.
Maybe 6, I don't know.
So
getting to that time when you
again,
make the decision.
It's a planning process.
Before we take a break here, one project spoke about during the regular council meeting, I think, Monday night. That trail section connection in East Beatrice is about ready to get underway, as I understand. I think I saw some flags out there the other day where it's kind of being marked out.
We're getting very close to that as well. So
that'll be nice because that's always been sort of, you have this nice trail that connects with the other trail that you just completed to Hannibal Park, but then it just
Stops.
ends nowhere.
Right,
So
right.
it'd be kind of nice to get
So
that.
we'll get that done, and that'll be a nice addition.
Okay. Back with more to wrap up Ask the Mayor in just a moment. Back to conclude Ask the Mayor today with Mayor Bob Morgan. Just a couple of other things just quickly from the council meeting. The economic development loan to Beatrice Bakery. They want to kind of update their equipment there. So that's a long-time business in Beatrice here.
Absolutely. When you look at the LB 840 funds, you ask yourself, what can you do with those that will benefit the business but also benefit Beatrice? Mm-hmm. And they've been in business here for a long time. And I think they'll be in business here for a lot longer. Mm-hmm. And so I think this piece of equipment modernizes some of their business processes. And I think, what did it say? They employ right now 45.
Somewhere around. Mm-hmm.
And possibility down the road, if things go well, they could pick up a couple more. So, they're not a small employer. And so being able to help out at Beatrice Bakery, which has kind of been a standout for the community for a number of years, was very nice to do.
They make the famous fruitcake, too.
That's
Grandma's fruitcakes.
Exactly right.
Still on the sign out there on the building. There.
Yes, it is.
That's great. So the other thing from an economic development standpoint, on Monday night, finalized the issue of bonds backed by sales tax in your economic development program to buy the property out at the Gage County Industrial.
Right. We're expanding the industrial park. It's about 80 acres. There's a little sliver of it that's under an easement. Took a long time to get everything processed because the easement took a while because that company was out of town. But, we're primed to continue to grow the industrial park. Mm-hmm. And so that was I think it was a really smart move to have that land and be ready to offer that to an upcoming business. We don't think we've got anybody right now, but you never know. I mean, it is important, and we've got a number of things going for us from the processes of recruiting businesses, particularly when you look at our electricity rates. Right now, they're very favorable through 2030. And so you have companies that do the full analysis, and they look at all of those things. Yeah.
Quick to finish up in the last 3 minutes or so, ever since you started the process of having department heads come into the council meetings and kind of sum up their operations and things, I got to admit I've learned a few things about the city that I thought I knew that I didn't. And another one was Monday night with the airport, just the overall impact of the facility. Not just from people who just like to fly for enjoyment, but business, the lease of ground, the number of businesses that are based there, the tie to other areas where people traveling cross country to stop and fuel. They have some improvements that they're looking at, need more hangar space. They have the fuel island thing that they want to take care of. There's a lot going on.
There is a lot going on. Dennis Schmidt gave a really nice report. Mm-hmm. And the airport is a very nice facility, and it's very important to the community. We do have, like I said, a number of businesses that fly in and out. You probably see the UPS plane. I think they come in like at 7 in the morning and at 7 at night. They're pretty much like clockwork. Sell fuel, a lot of fuel. We've got a gentleman that's very talented in avionics that has his business out there that's probably ready to expand. And they have a waiting list for hangars. So the facility has been kept up nice for a number of years, and it's really, I think it's one of the great things that we have in our community that typically, like me, who don't fly, you don't think about it. But when you think about, I thought it was real interesting. They have to pay attention about air shows that happen to be 500 or 600 miles away from Beatrice, because as they fly over, I guess it's just like my car or my truck when I want to pull over in a gas station. If we're priced right, you're going to be real busy with airplanes heading to that air show. And we've always been priced right with fuel, and had some long-term employees out there as well. And so Dennis put together a good plan to help us move forward over the next 5 years.
In the part of presentation where he was talking about what was the biggest plane that can fly into that, I wrote down the model and the number of that plane to look it up on the internet, and I thought, that's almost the size of a 737 or something that could land there if it needed to, but it's all based on aircraft weight. It's not necessarily the size of the... So I learned something there.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think Dan Worth started that when he was mayor. And we did that the first, well, there was four of us that, including Stan, hadn't really been that involved with the city before. And it was a great educational opportunity. And so then 4 years later, we did it again, or we did that 2 years again when we had new members on the council. And so we have a number of new members on this council. And you're right, I learned some things that I hadn't learned out of the first two presentations. So I think it's a great way to have the council and the city know what our department heads do, because they do a great job.
All right, Mayor, thanks for being with us again.
Oh, no problem. Thank you.